All right, so we're back here once again on another episode of Commanders in the Chat, episode 52. As we are here previewing the matchup between the Washington Commanders and the Indianapolis Colts. Got to bring in my guy Stu. What's going on, man?
How's it going, man? How's it going?
Good. And unfortunately, our guy Rob wasn't able to make it today, but we definitely got a great show lined up for you. So we'll preview our matchup against the Indianapolis Colts. And it's funny, when you look down the line in the NFL schedule, you're like, okay, you had this game kind of circled. You think of certain things. You're thinking this is Carson Wentz's game to go against his former team. You're thinking you're going to have, a Matt Ryan versus a Carson Wentz, and Jim Irsay was essentially, pretty much not trading, but more so the simple fact of, hey, I got rid of Carson Wentz and I thought I upgraded and Matt Ryan. But we stumbled upon some crazy news this week. So as we know now, the official announcement of Matt Ryan being benched and the young guy, Sam Ehlinger will get his start in this game. Your thoughts on Matt Ryan being benched in this matchup?
First of all, I'm going to say, man, you're 100% correct. When I saw this game coming up, when the schedule got released, I said, man, I can't wait to get Couch Coach on the show so we can talk about this Carson Wentz revenge game, right? Well, he gets hurt, and then I'm like, all right, well, the beer man Taylor Heineke, right? And I was like, well, maybe Taylor Heineke will do something, and then bang, the Colts dropped the news that they dropped on Monday on us. Yeah, here's the thing, Coach. At the end of the day, am I shocked? I think so. I would be remiss to say that I'm not shocked. Did I see it coming? Yes. Not this soon. I thought maybe around week 10, week 11, we would probably see it. I did not see it this week coming this soon. And the reason I said I thought we saw it was there was a lot of reports coming out of Indianapolis that Jim Irsay had kind of told Frank Reich that you're moving Nick Foles down to the third string into practice squad, and you're calling Sam Ehlinger up. So you knew when he said, hey, we're calling Sam Ehlinger up, that Matt Ryan was on a short leash. I just didn't think it was going to be the very next week.
Yeah, I know it's definitely something that I was really shocked when I heard that. And then I know it was talking about that he had like a minor injury. But then, then the other news was, okay, Sam Ehlinger was going to play, and then he was going to play for the foreseeable future, pretty much going to be playing for the rest of the actual regular season if healthy. And then obviously, if Sam Ehlinger stays up to joint or gets hurt, then Nick Foles is going to be the backup. So essentially.
Yeah, here's the thing, Coach. This move is what the franchise is telling you with this move is this. They're telling you our focus right now is all on April, because our plan right now, they're telling you right now that their plan is leaning towards drafting a quarterback in the first round. But they want to make sure before they go and do that the future is not already on the roster. So they want to make sure Sam Ehlinger is not that guy. Because if he's that guy, you don't need to draft a Will Levis, a Hendon Hooker, an Anthony Richardson, a whoever. Maybe you are in the C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young sweepstakes. I doubt they will be, but maybe they are. You don't need to draft that guy if the future's on your roster. So this is them saying, right now we're leaning towards quarterback in the first round unless Sam proves us otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, this is a move where like you look at Sam Ehlinger as kind of the kick, like we always say on this podcast, kicking the tires, where you want to see what you got, and he'll have a obviously potentially a 10-game sample to see, hey, can he be a starter in this league, and he'll have that opportunity to at least be considered, in their future going forward. So yeah, absolutely. And like we said, when we go into the season, we always we think it's all going to be X's and O's and certain things, but it's always some storyline and always some other drama. We talked about Matt Ryan being benched, but we definitely got to talk about Jim Irsay. So obviously, Jim Irsay kind of made somewhat of I call it very interesting and kind of telling, where he kind of gave us somewhat of a behind the curtain kind of moment, as far as his relationship with Daniel Snyder, and essentially he was saying that he recommends that, and the Cliff Notes version is essentially he's for Daniel Snyder selling the team, and pretty much saying that essentially he's not good for this league. So what are your thoughts on your owner? Talking about my owner. What are your thoughts on that, Stu?
Yeah, I thought it was a little weird. I mean, I guess I could say it wasn't that weird because I think that's how most GMs and owners in the NFL feel about Daniel Snyder at this point. I do think it was a little weird, and I was a little caught off guard because I was wondering if the report that came out literally, like, it may have been hours before Jim Irsay said what he said, where Daniel Snyder reportedly had a private investigator dig up information on all these owners and the commissioner himself. For me, it kind of caught me off guard because it told me either Jim Irsay is pretty confident he's done nothing wrong, that Daniel Snyder can be like, hey, he did this, or he just didn't care. And he was like, I don't care what you say. You need to be out of this league. So that to me was very shocking just because of what had already been reported. I was surprised at how soon it was. And it basically tells you Jim Irsay wasn't scared of the threats or anything that was in that article, that Daniel Snyder apparently had a private investigator look into some of these owners here in the NFL.
Yeah, I thought it was really telling. I think it's kind of, and it's funny, and especially being a Commanders fan, you always hear these inklings. Obviously, you hear about the investigation. We figured that was going to be somewhat of a smoking gun. Then, obviously, the reports of him not splitting the cost when it comes to compensation for for the road opponents. So, as far as divvying up that money for his road opponents, I thought that was another key thing. And then them bringing up during the Super Bowl, I thought that was kind of huge. But I think this one is probably the hugest development, I think, in my personal opinion, because of the simple fact of, like you said, Jim Irsay has a past. So it's kind of one of the things where he has dirt on him. So to me, he's willing to, quote unquote, die on the sword on this issue. So to me, that kind of lets me know there's some traction and some legs when it comes to potentially him being voted out. And that's one thing I always looked at it from the standpoint of, well, the owners aren't going to vote him out because to me, I always deemed him as good for business, because I've even envisioned that he would go rogue if things went south for him. And as you're seeing it now, where he's trying to do this, and then you got a guy like a Jim Irsay, where I'm really confident to a point where if he's saying this, and he's saying this out loud, like this isn't something that's behind closed doors. He let us in on this. So to me, that lets me know he isn't the only one. Like, I don't think he's what you would call a minority when it comes to of his opinions. He's just the only one, I think, that has spoken on it in a private manner. So I think this is kind of one of those where it's a development. I think if there was this is a huge development. I think this in the, I think if you people of Commanders fans who want to get rid of Daniel Snyder, this kind of is somewhat of encouraging news. So it's going to be definitely interesting.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're good. You're good too.
I was going to say, I think the key owner in this all hovers around a NFC East owner as well. Like, a lot of people in the NFL listen to Jerry Jones, and if Jerry Jones ever gets mad or gets upset with Daniel Snyder, I think it's the end. I mean, we saw a picture with those two taken on the field at Dallas Cowboys Stadium. That was done on purpose by Daniel Snyder to say, look, I'm still look at me and Jerry, we're friends, all this kind of stuff, because Jerry Jones has a lot of pull among NFL owners. So the second Jerry Jones says, yeah, get this guy out of here, he's going to be gone. So if I'm Daniel Snyder, I'm nurturing that relationship with Jerry Jones as much as I can, because that's the relationship that he needs to worry about the most, is the Jerry Jones relationship.
Yeah, and I totally agree. That's gonna be the one that he's really gonna have to, like, in essence, gonna have to nurture and maintain, because he's. I think you will want, like you said, you want Jerry Jones to be an ally because he has pull and he has that type of, you know. So you want to have him on your side. So Stu, so your thoughts on this Colt season? So obviously you guys are 3-3-1. It's been somewhat of a roller coaster, as we all know. If you know, as far as our colleagues know, we know it's been a rough ride for you these last 7 weeks. So what are your thoughts on the season overall?
Yeah, here's the thing. Like coming into the first game of the year, there was some, I guess, optimism. I think I called it because Jay Stevens was on my podcast, and I think I called it cautious optimism because I wasn't sure what Matt Ryan was going to bring. I wasn't sure what this offense was going to do, and I wasn't sure how good Frank Reich was going to be. All those have been atrocious so far this year. Like Frank Reich's been bad at play calls. He's been bad at schemes. He's been bad at dialing up decisions and getting our best players in situations. Like, I watch him dial up plays versus Jacksonville that gets our backup running back Deion Jackson in open space, whether it be through screen passes or different types of runs, even though there's a bunch of men in the box. And then I'll watch him with Jonathan Taylor, and he just hands the ball off up the middle and says, go up the middle and run into this 8-man box. It's like, how come you're not dialing up the same plays that you are with Deion Jackson for JT? Matt Ryan, I thought was going to be better in this. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought his issues in Atlanta were more of Atlanta than they were Matt Ryan. But Matt Ryan's not been great, but also this offensive line. It's the highest paid offensive line in football, and it's let them down majorly. So just all around, like, this team has shown you, like 2 weeks ago versus Jacksonville, that they can score a lot of points, and that if given the right time and given the right situation, the right circumstances, they can be unstoppable. And they did that during versus Jacksonville. They scored 34 points. They were tough to stop. But, Coach, the thing is that they don't do it enough. They don't do it often. And now with Sam Ehlinger in here, I've never felt this way or kind of seen a fan base or a team, I guess, that looks so hopeless sitting at 3-3-1.
Yeah, big time. All right. So the Colts, well, I'll put it this way: the Colts and the Commanders / Washington football team / Washington Redskins, we have somewhat of a history. You guys actually lead the series 21-12. So any favorite memories that you have against us, Commander, Redskin, Washington football team?
Yeah, 2018. When we played you guys, I think we won like 45-22 or something like that. But for me, it was more of what was surrounding the game than the game itself, right? Like I said, it was 45-22. So we won by like 23 points. But you look at it, it was more of, this was the Andrew Luck return, right? Like Andrew Luck had come back the week before off that injury where he had missed so much time. And he came back versus Cincinnati week 1. He was marching down the field to score, and Jack Doyle fumbled the football and cost Andrew Luck his first win of 2018 and his first win back after we had seen this guy battle through rehab. This was this was Frank Reich's coming out party as well. This is the first season of the Frank Reich era as well. And so you got a lot of new faces like Nyheim Hines, Marlon Mack's there. You got some different guys. And so you're looking at it and you're saying, this is a team that shows a lot of optimism, a lot of cool things. And, I was like, this is the team that is going to turn it around here and be the future. And when we look on to 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, in the next decade, Andrew Luck was going to be leading the way. Now, he retired at the end of the year, as we know, but the point becoming that being the first win and the only win for the next 5 weeks as they went 1-5 that year. It was special because it was Andrew Luck's first win back after being gone for I think a year and a half, almost 2 years. He was out of commission, didn't play football. He comes back, and it's his first win and what wound up being a comeback player of the year award type season for him. And being an Andrew Luck guy that I am, I was so stoked for this victory. And that's where Luck looked like Luck again. Like he had that first game versus Cincinnati, he was a little rusty and his arm maybe looked like it didn't have it, but he showed it there. And then it was the Darius, or shall I say Shaquille Leonard now coming out party during that game as well. That's when Shaquille Leonard kind of introduced himself to everybody and kind of made himself as one of the top 10 linebackers in all of football. So yeah, that 2018 matchup for me is the one I hold my hat on, and I say it's a special one for me as a Colts fan, just because of not necessarily the game itself and how much they won, but everything surrounding the game that led up to and even the storylines during the game.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think, like, with this matchup. Obviously, I think 2018 that was the interesting one, because I definitely thought, because I think we came into that game undefeated. You gave us our first loss that year. But the thing I liked about it, because Mo Alley-Cox scored in that game. Yep, and obviously Mo Alley-Cox is from the area, so I always got love for Mo Alley-Cox. So, obviously a former VCU basketball player. So I thought that was kind of cool. But
what's yours? What's your favorite one?
I don't necessarily. You think about it, it's really there's really no favorite moment in essence. Because I know when Peyton came here on a Sunday night football game years ago.
Donovan McNabb.
Yeah, and that was close. I think it was I think we lost by like 3.
It was 24-21.
Yeah, I remember that game. And you think about it, it's so funny. So the last time that the Commanders/Redskins beat the Colts, 20 years ago to the day, on October 27th, 2002, was the last time that they won. So then get this, dude. The last time that the Commanders beat the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis, first of all, it was in the RCA Dome.
Been a while.
It's almost 28 years to the day. It was October 23rd, 1994, 28 years ago.
Was that the Harbaugh-led Colts?
Yes, Jim Harbaugh versus Gus Frerotte.
Gus Frerotte. Was it when he was with Washington, when he headbutted the wall and gave himself a concussion or hurt his neck or whatever?
Yeah, hurt his neck. Yes, that was on a Sunday night football game too. I think we were playing like Arizona. Yeah, that was the worst of times. That was the beginning of the worst. I mean, we've had some other worst moments in the last 25 plus years.
I went back to kind of jog my memory, and I'll tell you one that we got robbed of was the 2014 matchup between the Colts and Washington, because we wound up getting Colt McCoy versus Andrew Luck. I think it would have been really, really cool to have RG3 versus Andrew Luck, and that storyline, the number 1 versus the number 2 overall pick in 2012, that was something that we got robbed of, and we didn't get the opportunity to see them in a head-to-head matchup like that.
Yeah, I remember that, because that was that Sunday after Thanksgiving. Yep, it was that November 30th game. Yep, and that's crazy, because they were supposed to be the two where we looked at like kind of like they were like neck and neck, 1 and 2. They were going to be the two players that we were always going to compare quarterback wise, and
like we do
they never had that matchup to play. Mm-hmm.
Like we do with Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning. They were going to be that next group that we always compared head to head how they were going to go. And I think it would have been fireworks with RG3. Like, I understand that year he wasn't playing great and he had some up and down moments, but I do think RG3 was made for the big moments. And when the big moments came, he always rose up to the occasion. And he had that would have been what bigger moment would it have been than to play the guy who was drafted above you, who you have mad respect for and they're friends off the field and stuff like that. But just to be like, number 1, number 2 overall pick, the storylines leading up to that all week, that would have been something that would have been fun to watch, something that we didn't get to see that I wish we could have.
Yeah, we were definitely deprived of that matchup. And it's funny because that was another one when you looked at on the surface, when the schedule was released that
A
year.
lot
That
like
was
this one. Yeah.
yeah, just like this one. It's eerily similar where you look at how when the schedule was released in May, you're like, oh, you got number one versus number two. We're gonna be playing them, in Indianapolis, and that's gonna be fun at Lucas Oil. But like you said, we were deprived of that. So in this matchup, who do you have? What is your matchups to watch?
Well, my first matchup is going to be Sam. Who's your defensive coordinator?
Jack Del Rio.
Sam Ellinger versus Jack Del Rio is my first one. It's going to be interesting to see what the young kid can do versus this defense and what kind of tricks that Jack Del Rio puts up his sleeve for the youngster and Sam Ellinger. I think the one that everyone's going to be focused on, right, is Scary Terry versus Stephon Gilmore. I think those are going to be the two. I think that's going to be the most watched matchup of this contest is who gets the better of this. Is it going to be the Colts' best corner, best cover guy on the field, or is it going to be Washington's best receiver in Scary Terry? Who's going to win this battle? Because right now, when he's been tested, Stephon Gilmore has been really, really good. He's made people pay, and in his own words, as he said, when they've tested him. So it's going to be interesting to see what the beer man Taylor Heineke can do when he tries to target, Scary Terry, because Stephon Gilmore is going to be there. So it's going to be interesting to watch off of that to see kind of what happens. And is Jahan Dotson coming back in this game, or do we know yet?
He's at this point. I doubt it more likely because he practiced last week and he had a setback last week in practice. I would assume they're probably going to practice. He's going to practice and just see what it is. But I doubt it very seriously if you're going to have him in this matchup.
So, yeah, I mean, that's going to be the matchup to look out for is Stephon Gilmore versus Terry McLaurin.
Yeah. I definitely think I'm really curious what the Commanders' offensive line is going to do against you guys' defensive line, because obviously you look at obviously last week where the running game was working very well. Can that running game still continue? Really glad they didn't abandon the run last week. They did what they had to do in that regard. And then can they hold up in the sense with Taylor Heineke? Will they at least give him gaps and opportunities to kind of elude the pocket where you see where he actually made some great throws on third and shorts where, where we always say, especially with this team, if you can convert on third downs and keep that ball going, that's going to be the key to it all, where essentially if you can convert on third downs, have these long sustaining drives and tire out the defense, this is what this team has to do. And I think that's going to be kind of one of the keys with Taylor Heineke. Can he release it in time where, versus, will the Colts give him time to throw and make some plays? So I'm definitely curious about that matchup as well. And I just want to, my thing also on defense, I just want to make sure, like, as far as, you guys got a two-headed monster when it comes to tight ends. So I'm kind of curious how Jack Del Rio is going to play those tight ends. I definitely think if the success of a guy like Sam Ellinger, as far as through the air, is going to be those, the tight ends and Michael Pittman and Mo Alley and all those guys. So I'm really curious what they're going to throw at it. Almost to piggyback to your points too, where what would Jack Del Rio throw up defensively wise against Sam Ellinger?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be interesting. I think that's the part you got to watch. I mean, I don't trust Frank Reich and his play calling and his ability to scheme up plays enough to see to say that he's going to take advantage of whatever it is that you guys are lacking on defense. And we've had success throwing to the tight ends. We did versus Tennessee in the first matchup versus Tennessee. We were able to have success throwing the football to the tight ends. But I'm not sure here, Coach, really kind of what's going to happen, who's going to be the guy to look out for. I mean, this may be one of those games where JT just comes out of nowhere after what's been a rough year for him as well. So, we'll find out. But, with Frank Reich, you never really know. And you never know you don't know what this offense is going to look like when you've got a guy like Sam Ehlinger at quarterback who's unproven, and you don't know what he can or can't do versus real defenses.
Yeah, most definitely. So, Stu, what is the key to a Colts win? What you got?
Yeah, I would say the key is going to be, I think, to try to protect Sam Ehlinger as much as you can. And I don't mean by offensive line wise, right? That's not what I'm talking about. Obviously, you want to protect your quarterback with the offensive line, but I'm talking about don't put him in situations where you're forcing him to make some bad decisions that make him look awful, right? Don't put him in a situation where he has to try to fit this ball into a tight window when he doesn't have the arm to do it, and he winds up throwing 3 picks because you can't dial up a game plan for him to really succeed. I think you're going to see a lot of zone read, RPO style stuff. You're going to see some new run games. You got to get that run game going. And I think that's something you're going to have to find here for the Indianapolis Colts. And I think that's something they're going to try to dial up ultimately is to get this run game going. I think defensively, you got to make a couple key plays. Like I said, Stephon Gilmore, I think, has got to step up in some big-time plays versus, Scary Terry, and then you got to watch this defensive line. I think get some key sacks on Taylor Heineke on third down, get them off the field, get your offense the football back. I think that's some keys to the game for the Colts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the keys, I think for the Commanders win, obviously, it's got to be the run game. I definitely think if they want to be successful, you run the game, you tire out this defense. The biggest key is winning the turnover battle, where force some turnovers, especially with a guy like a Seth Elliker behind center. Can we get turnovers off of those situations? Can we handle those miscues? And then I think also special teams going to play a big part in it. I think like if Tress Wade, if he has those opportunities where he can punt the ball long and actually get you guys in longer distances where getting guys starting at the 20, 30, and hey, he's gonna have to work to get into our territory. So I think that's kind of one of the things where this is like another thing where this is a game of inches where it's better off to have a Sam Elliker starting off in their own 25-yard line versus marching down the field, versus having them at the 35 and they're only at first down away from being in our territory. So field position is going to be key, especially when you have a quarterback like Sam Elliker. Hey, he make him work for it. Make him work for every possession, yard by yard. So yeah,
I completely agree.
Yep. So actually, the $1 million question here on the Commanders in the Chat pod. So Stu, your predictions for this Commanders Colts matchup?
Yeah, I don't see the Colts scoring a lot of points here. They are the lowest scoring offense, 29th actually, as Ken at Off the Ball Network will tell me. They're 29th in the league in scoring, averaging about 16 points per game. I have them scoring a little bit less than that. I think it's going to be 24-14 Washington over the Colts.
So 24, you said 24-14?
Yep.
Okay. All right. And I actually got a 27-17 Colts. 27-17 Commanders win and get us right at the 500 mark.
This can be your first win since 2002. So
yeah, it'll be the first win in 2002, and our first win potentially in Indianapolis in 28 years. So a lot has changed in 28 years. So but yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, man. So we'll put a bow on this week's Commanders in the Chat preview with the Indianapolis Colts. So Stu, tell them where they can find you on social media and any upcoming projects that you got going on.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna have you on my show, coming up the day tomorrow from when we record this. But I'll have you on my show. We'll be previewing this game as well, talking about the matchup, some different types of things, Washington versus Indianapolis wise. Where you can find me on Twitter at Stupak5. You can also find me, the podcast Twitter at Stew Morning on Twitter as well. You can find the podcast wherever your podcasts are: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, you name it, it's there. You can find the podcast there. So, yeah, I mean, we'll be out everywhere. My show will probably come out Thursday morning. You'll probably see it, and by the time you're hearing this, it's already out. So make sure you listen, give it a listen, and like and share, please. And I'm glad you had me on, Coach.
Yeah, man, definitely looking forward to it. Like you said, when especially since the Colts and the Commanders don't play that often, it's always a good opportunity to bring you on and talk Commanders and Colts. Obviously you always got a spot on Couch Coach Live for you, but being on the Commanders in the chat, it's a once in a potential 4-year opportunity that me and you get together as far as talking about a matchup between our two teams. So yeah, always definitely a great time. But yeah, man, definitely once again appreciate you, Stu, for coming on, and good luck on Sunday on both our ends. And yeah, man. So this has been this week's Commanders in the Chat, and we will catch you guys on our post game on Sunday at 8:00 Eastern Standard Time, and we'll catch you then. And we're out.